Hi, welcome to our second installment of Youth in Leadership by the Episcopal Diocese of Atlanta, where we interview youth that have stepped up in evident ways across our diocese in their leadership. I am Ariana Cantillo. I am the Youth Social Media Strategist Intern for the diocese, and today we have with us Tai Jackson, and I'm going to let him introduce himself.
Yes, well, hello everyone. My name is Tai Jackson, and I am a sophomore at Carrolton High School, and I go to St. Margaret's Episcopal Church in the aforementioned Carrolton, Georgia. Yes.
So this kind of goes in with your intro, but I want to know about your involvement in EYC and just how not only you got involved in your church, but how that led you to your involvement in our Episcopal youth community. Yes.
So if some of you don't know, my dad is the one and only Jeff Jackson. and yeah, so I am literally a priest kid. I'm a PK.
Hardcore PK.
So I grew up in the church. You know, I started going to EYC when I was around 12 years old, and I really love the community that EYC has. Going to having dinner together, doing activities, bonding together as a group, growing in our faith. And I really love that community. And so then my dad was like, hey, guess what? There's a whole bigger version of this, and it's called the Diocese of Atlanta. It's called Camp Michael. So yeah. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. There's retreats and stuff. And so I was not prepared. I had no idea what that really meant. And
how cool and fun and big it is.
Yeah, I was not prepared for that. I was not prepared for that. And so I went to New Beginnings, and I was like, wow. And it was a transformative experience. And so I kept coming back. I went 4 times when I was in middle school. And yeah, it was just a completely transformative experience that, introduced me to the diocese and everything. And it was a great, I met so many cool people, and it was just great. So yeah.
I love that. I love that awesome transition between church and then you're whoa, there's this huge diocese that's basically the same accepting community, but it's just more people.
Right. Yeah. It's just larger scale. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the retreats that we do here at the Diocese of Atlanta is called Steps to Lead. For those of you that don't know, this is a retreat for rising sophomores to just graduated seniors, led by Bishop Wright, Mary Hooper, or as we call her, Mama Hoop, who is the professor of leadership at Clark Atlanta, and then our very own Easton Davis. And this is a leadership retreat that is basically just encompassed by Bishop Wright's definition of how to lead and love like Jesus. But his definition is, and I know that every single person that's been to Steps to Lead basically has heard this a billion times.
Yeah, it's ingrained in our brains.
Yeah. And it's leadership is the capacity to mobilize others to address problems, especially problems we would rather avoid. I almost messed up there. But that's the definition that basically you hear almost every day of the retreat. And it's just teaching us how to lead like Jesus. And so I want to hear a little bit about your experience there and kind of what you realized and took away from it.
Yeah. So this year's Steps to Lead was a little bit different because, we're living in a global pandemic, different times. So I mean, usually, they have a retreat and everything, and you go and stay for a weekend. But this year we didn't get to do that. But so we had it on Zoom and everything. But I was really, really surprised about how still good it was. You still had those relationships even through the computer. I mean, I still learned a lot and had good conversations with people, and that really gave me the courage to kind of go for starting up this LGBTQ club at my school. And yeah, so I mean, I just got a lot of advice from everyone, and I really love Rob's kind of, I don't know, forcefulness, for you to go out and do this stuff. He's not kidding around. He's serious. He means business.
Yes, and I think you can tell by his definition that he means business. But yeah. One key thing about Steps to Lead that I also need to mention is that you basically at the end of the weekend, the goal is to have a passion project that you want to conquer. Each one of us are tasked with doing it, and we kind of come up with a plan on how to tackle it back home. So you mentioned your LGBTQ Alliance Club, and before we get super into that, I think what you just realized was that like you have a passion for the LGBTQ community, and I kind of want to get into that before we get into your club. So why does supporting the LGBTQ community, why does it matter to you?
Yes. So, being a person that, grows up through our public school system and everything, and you just see a lot of stuff. You see a lot of people who don't get what they need, and a lot of people who don't have support from their families because of who they are. And I mean, luckily, I'm lucky enough to have a supporting family, and of course, intersecting faith and that is a very sticky subject for a lot of people. A lot of people have a lot of homophobia and transphobia just because of their faith. But I mean, really, God loves everyone regardless of who you are. And so I thought that was a very important message to get out there. And that really, I mean, that had been on my mind really for the past year or so. I mean, in quarantine and stuff, I was really thinking about that. And I watched a lot of movies and, done a lot of research, and I was just like, this is like a problem. I mean, the lack of LGBTQ representation in schools, the education, the lack of good sex education for LGBTQ teenagers in schools. I mean, there's a lot there. But I mean, of course you have to start small, so yeah, I really, started just, it was boiling in the back of my mind. Yeah. And I was like, I need to do something. And, Steps to Lead just gave me just kind of a perfect venue.
Yeah. And I think what Bishop Wright and Mama Hope and Easton try to do is like pick at the back of your brain, like what is boiling in your brain? Because everyone has something boiling in their brain. Like that's the perfect way you said it. But I think they try to like cultivate that. And but I kind of want to hear about, well, first, I want to say that like about what you said about the church and intersecting faith. I think was something that's awesome, and personally that I so admire about the Episcopal Church is that we openly support the LGBTQ community, like not just on the down low. We are out there posting on LGBTQ, like Pride Day, Pride Month. We're out there posting, and I think it's so important because I think we just really fully encompass that like God loves everybody.
And that's such an important message for a lot of people, because a lot of people don't have anyone else to turn to.
Exactly. And so on that note, I kind of want to hear about your process of implementing this club. I want to hear about like where you drew on your faith in this process. I know you kind of talked about like the brainstorming of it, but I want to hear about like what struggles you faced, what was easy, what was where you needed to be like, hey God, I need your help. So
yeah. So the whole process was it was a lot. So I mean, when I had originally was like, oh, this needs to be a club at my school, there had actually I discovered that there actually had been some previous work done by some other students who recognized the same thing about how a lot of these kids don't have representation in school, and we need a community to bond everyone together. And so I was like, oh, wow. Okay. So there's already been some pushback from that, from administrators, from teachers. And, you would be really surprised of how cautious they were about that. And especially living in like the South, there was a lot of like apprehension about the feedback from that. So, I started talking to peers about it. I talked to my teachers about it, and specifically my choir teacher. She kind of was like, "Oh, I would love to sponsor that club," and so I drew from a lot of people who I knew would be open to the idea.
Yeah.
And really, the scary part is the part that you really have to pray to God that this is going to turn out okay. Is going to the people who are a little bit scared, like the principal, the administration, people like that who are they just have no idea. They don't know this is going on. They're most of it is not homophobia per se. A lot of it is just ignorance. They just have no frame of reference for this. Mm-hmm. And so that's definitely something that was hard. I mean, there was a lot of it. I mean, we started this club in around, it was October, November, and you know, we had done this we had this conversation. I mean, usually a club can start up in around a month or so, but the club took, you know, I started this process when I first did Steps to Lead, which was like in July. And so that was like a few months that there was a lot of emailing back and forth, like, oh, is this okay? And, you know, the school had to approve everything. So it was a difficult process, but I'm super, super thankful, you know, for all the people that have like just come together for this opportunity. And Steps to Lead was a big part of that. Having those tools to lead effectively.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. And I want to ask, before I kind of like comment on what you said, I want to ask, where did you draw on your faith, like in those moments where, because you feel so passionately about this, right?
Yeah.
When you feel so passionate about something and you feel that it's right, when you come across people that don't think the same way, you're like, how could you not?
Right.
You know? So where did you draw on your faith? And who, and if it wasn't like you just by yourself drawing on your faith, who kept you encouraged? Was there certain people that kept you encouraged, or just certain routines that you would go through? Yeah.
Well, I think a big part of what gave me the courage to do all of this is my parents, specifically my dad, who is just also a big advocate for it. But again, going back to what you said about you know, drawing on your faith, I just kind of think about like, what would God do in this situation? And like, would God, you know, say, oh, this is too hard, I just give up? No, he wouldn't. I feel like that's like, just, you know, thinking about what he would do, that just gave me encouragement. I was just like, well, the world's not going to change if I'm not going to change it. So
put that on a t-shirt. Put that on
bumper sticker. That's a bumper material.
Put it on a t-shirt and sell it for your LGBTQ Alliance Club. And then one thing that I think this is one of the biggest questions. What are some things that you've learned through this process? I know that Steps to Lead gave you a lot of tools to get to this point, but what have you learned about leadership and faith in leadership and inclusivity in leadership? What have you learned through this whole process? Yeah,
I think the biggest thing is that it is not as easy as it looks. I mean, people go up there and they're like smooth talking and they, you know, they have the situation under control. It takes a lot to be a leader and to energize group. And again, drawing on like your own experiences is a very big thing for leadership, I feel like. Because, I mean, I've been a leadership, you know, a teen mentor in various youth programs and stuff. And like, you have to pay attention. You have to put yourself out there, and you have to be confident in what you're doing. Because if you're not confident, then everyone around you isn't.
Exactly, and everyone's watching you. I mean, when you're the face of something, everyone's watching you.
And you know, that was really, I mean, starting this club, it was scary because, you know, I went to the office, you know, I talked to teachers and whatever. And, you know, that's hard. Like even being honest with yourself, like even like coming out, that's kind of connects to that in some way. Like it takes courage to put yourself out there as a leader. And I think that's a very important thing. And again, that's where you draw from your faith. You know, that's where you ask God for assistance. And I think that's like a big thing. I feel like
and I think that's huge. And I think that especially a huge part of why we're doing this interview segment to begin with is that youth and leadership is so important. Like the fact that, because I think one of the biggest things that the Episcopal Church chases after is that, or at least the Diocese of Atlanta is that, look, the youth aren't the future of the church, or the youth aren't the future of our world or of our society. Like we're the now, and we have the ability to do things now. Like you said, if we're passionate about something, literally anyone, any age can tackle it.
Right. I mean, yeah, the age shouldn't stop you. I mean, you have
100%.
Initiative, then
100%. So I have loved this conversation. I've honestly learned so much. I'm so honored to be able to talk with you today because you have such a passion for this, and it's so. I hope that people can feel it through a screen because I can feel it.
It's radiating. I feel.
Yeah, it's radiating. So I want to end this with
inclusivity.
yes, radiating inclusivity, love, passion. Hope you're feeling all of it.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I want to end this call with, and I ended the last interview segment with, was what is one word of encouragement that you would like to leave our viewers with today?
Yeah. So I was thinking about this a lot this week, actually. And I was thinking, it was like, you are not alone. And I think that's an important message. And that's not just for LGBTQ youth. That's for everyone. You are not alone. And you should find people who support you. And that's a very important thing, because that gives you inspiration. And you know, if you don't have those people in your life, there's always God, and God's always there for you. So, you know, always surround yourself with people who love you. You are not alone. God loves you. The Episcopal Church loves you.
Yeah, we do.
Love. That's my word of encouragement.
Literally put that on a t-shirt too. We're making t-shirts.
So many quotes.
We need to make merch for this interview segment. But Tai, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me. This is
we literally can't thank you enough. This was amazing. I want to remind all of our viewers to like and keep watching. We're gonna have new ones of these every so often, and you just better keep your eye out. We're gonna have youth leaders, just awesome people that have stepped up in leadership. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.